My channel has been a series that usually end around 10 or so videos. This one's still going. I feel like we're all ready to move on to the next project, but it's actually gotten worse. This has been convoluted at times, and I just got off the phone with the IRS again, which you'll get to hear later in the video, and what I learned on the phone made everything more confusing. So whether you're brand new or have watched every upload, within a few minutes, you and I, together, will understand exactly how much money I owe the US government, we'll create a plan to prevent my property from being seized, and we'll deep dive into my newly discovered tax accounts to prevent future disaster. What's happening now is accumulated from years of buildup, and it turns out, in the background, this whole time, a new and similar problem has been brewing today that very likely was going to bite me in the ass another 3 to 5 years from now. So, at the very least, we'll finally understand where I messed up, and best case scenario, it may save at least one person watching from a future tax nightmare. I'm going to repeat a few details over the next 1 minute, but it's to help less dedicated viewers understand the full story, so just bear with me. Not to mention, I was writing these previous videos without a full understanding of what I was talking about, and I have to admit, writing the video you're watching right now basically forced me to journal what's happening. I'm writing this intro after finishing the bulk of the video, and so I can tell you more than once I was explaining an issue only to realize, oh wait, I don't know what I'm explaining. So then I would stop writing, go back through my own documents and emails and paperwork to fully understand it, and then come back and write the video. So kind of an unexpected bonus of creating this content is it acts as a quiz or a test for myself to make sure I understand my own situation. It's kind of interesting actually. We are about to go on a governmental roller coaster, but I'll make it as simple as possible. So 2025 was a wonderful year in every way, except financially. My income had been a combination of social media, home and car rental income, and gig apps, which gradually declined across the 12 months. In fact, my YouTube channel went from 50,000 views a day in January to 2,000 views a day by December. And so by the end of the year, I was living not off income, but off savings from earlier months. Savings that specifically were set aside to pay my taxes. I had reinvested the YouTube earnings into new YouTube series that didn't financially perform well. Being self-employed, there's nobody to withhold part of my paycheck to pay taxes that I owe. It's my own responsibility to put money aside. And so by the time the tax deadline came along in 2026, I had run through my cash scrambling to rebuild my income. I kept thinking I was just one good series away from hitting it big, which is technically true, it just hasn't happened yet. I requested an extension where they would give me about an extra 6 months to pay my taxes for an additional fee. That way, I can keep playing the YouTube slot machine. To my surprise, they said no. I had gotten extensions almost every year since 2016, so this was a huge surprise. But I had been sent to collections just weeks before requesting this for an unrelated tax debt issue, which means I wasn't eligible for the first time. Okay, so some of that may have sounded familiar, but now I'm going to dive even deeper because it's important for what we're about to run into later in the video. Going all the way back to 2016 when I was 16 years old, the first year I made enough money to pay taxes on my income. I didn't know how to do it. I had never had a job, and even if I had, self-employment is a totally different world. And so I hunted down my first accountant. To make things easier, we're going to give all my accountants fake names. I went through my comments and picked some channel members' names, so my first accountant was Liz. Liz had done taxes for someone in my family with decades of small business and self-employed accounting experience. She was now semi-retired, mostly working from home, but it worked for me. She didn't charge crazy rates, she was easy to get in touch with, and quite friendly. For the first year, I made money as a sole proprietorship. Just me, under my name. Alex Green makes money and pays taxes. But Liz introduced me to the value of creating a company, a separate entity to do business under for tax benefits, as well as reduced personal liability. We set up my first company. Of course, I called it Go Herping. So in 2017, I was filing as a sole proprietor, Alex Green, as well as a company, GoHerping. GoHerping started hiring employees, making GoHerping a legal employer as well. I was assigned an employer identification number, or EIN. Then I expanded to a new product and service with my friend. At first, we were just going to do it under the GoHerping name, but after a couple weeks of deliberation, we decided to make it a separate entity. We called this one Emerald Scales. It also got its own EIN. Emerald Scales began hiring employees that same year, so in 2018, I filed taxes as Alex Green, GoHerping, and Emerald Scales. GoHerping filed the taxes of its employees, as well as Emerald Scales. In 2019, my friend and I split up and closed the original Emerald Scales entity. He started a similar service under his own name, while I used Emerald Scales as a DBA, or doing business as, under GoHerping. The 3 or 4 employees and contractors under Emerald Scales were basically rehired under GoHerping, but doing the same work. Simple enough, right? Okay, we're all following so far. This was all done with the guidance of my accountant, Liz, and a tax lawyer at one point, but it seriously saved me a lot in taxes, and more importantly, prepared me for future growth. We really hoped to build these things as big as possible, so getting this in order sooner than later, I think was the right move at the time. But Liz fell behind on a few of her clients, including me. She was usually just filing taxes for freelancers, but I went from one guy to a team of like 6 across a very complicated mix of revenue streams. Not to mention, Liz didn't entirely understand everything behind e-commerce and social media. She fell behind on my bookkeeping and wasn't able to file my taxes on time. Without any heads up, she filed an extension on my behalf. I wasn't happy about this, as she was my professional budgeter, basically. In the midst of the most explosive growth and exotic animal just chaos going on, I had no idea what my revenue, expenses, profit, and most importantly, how much I owed in taxes were. With up to 50 transactions per day, per entity at times, it wasn't as simple as using like some free budgeting app. I really needed the help of a professional, but it was kind of like the SpongeBob brain on fire scene for a minute. We ended up in this argument that ended up in me leaving her accounting firm as a client after she filed my taxes that year, but I really didn't have a backup plan. I went to my local subreddit and asked if there were any good small business accountants in the area. I got a DM and she was like, yeah, we can do it. It was the assistant of my next accountant, who we're gonna call Scott, and she set up an appointment for me to meet with them. We went over everything I just explained, and I essentially just said, I hope that you do things on time. If there's a delay, let me know up front, and I want as detailed of bookkeeping as possible so I know how much money I have. He happily onboarded me as a new client. He was full-time, had a physical office with his own staff, and thoroughly understood social media, like ad revenue, merchandise, and sponsors. I couldn't get a sponsor for this video, but I did get a channel member to pay me $10 for an ad of her own. The Talley is a comedy life simulator in a PS2 style city. Work jobs, pet dogs, buy a home, and make thousands of small choices that feel like nothing in the moment. The gig economy is the game. Rideshare passengers have moods. The speed demon will tip you for running yellows, while the nervous ones scream quietly from the back seat and tip you for gentleness. Reading them is the true job. Do men really order latte art? That's kind of freaking fruity. But hey, I mean, I guess we are working at Starbucks. I don't know what else to expect here. Wow, this is the worst paying job I've had yet. Collect sensitive documents. What is this, is nudes? Shred, don't read them. Oh, Gunnar Gary, we call him. Freak of the office. Some gigs pay about 3 times as much, including cold calling old people for a charity called Totally Real Charity. I got a promotion, I think, so I get $29 per scam, or per legitimate donation. There is no morality meter, pop-up, or judgy narrator. The game never once tells you it noticed what you did, but it noticed. Yo, I just stole a wallet. That's what I'm talking about. It's a day's worth of work right there. After about 90 minutes, crows begin to gather. They all face you. You die. And you get an itemized receipt of your entire life. I got my freaking death receipt. Oh, it kept track of my bad deeds. I'm an asshole. With multiple endings, the entire city behind this solo dev project was hand-built. It's the good place if it were a PS2 game about the gig economy for $4.99 out November 2026. Scan the QR code or use the link below to wishlist the Talley on Steam right now. My boy Scott, my second accountant, he got everything in order. He was incredibly transparent, timely, enthusiastic, Where is this headed? It's obviously going in a bad direction. Don't worry, we'll get to it. But let's focus on the good for now. He saved me literal hours of time per week and a lot of money on taxes. Anytime I emailed or called him, he'd answer immediately, but at a price. He cost $200 an hour, and he charged me per quarter of an hour. So if I called him with a question, he would charge me $50 for every 15 minutes on the phone. I think accounting might be the original OnlyFans. As crazy as it sounds, it was totally worth it. Every week, him and his assistant created detailed breakdowns of my revenue, expenses, profit, losses across every income stream I had. It was super helpful, and I really think it benefited to the growth of the projects I was creating, as well as my revenue. So, what went wrong? Well, he freaking retired. God damn it. What is with accountants and retiring all the time? I mean, I guess they're making so much money they can retire pretty fast. But he referred me to one of his friends, Jamar, as a new client. This is our third accountant. Almost everything stayed the same. I just signed a few papers and we transitioned everything to the new firm, but this accountant had a new plan. While working with Scott, he saw my growth had exploded. Like I went from $20,000 in profit to $200,000 in profit in under 3 years. He restructured my entities entirely. Go Herping went from a limited liability company to a subchapter S corporation. What does this mean? I had no idea, but he said it was better. Everyone said I've never had a real job, but guess what? I was actually an employee on salary. It's just that my boss was also me. I was paying myself a regular bi-weekly paycheck, and so now I was paying taxes, not as Alex Green, the sole proprietor, but Alex Green, the employee, as well as Go Herping withholding and paying taxes for both itself and its own employees. This saved me an exorbitant amount in taxes. I think that's how you say that word. There's a lot of words I write a lot and I don't say that often, but I think it's exorbitant. And then everything kind of started to crumble on the revenue side. A lot happened, but some unique highlights are I was banned from Meta products, including Instagram and Facebook, which meant I lost one of my biggest social media accounts, which I used to generate a lot of sales and reach new people. I also could no longer run ads on Instagram, which was the biggest part of my marketing budget. I started making new accounts, but they just kept getting sniped. YouTube began to demonetize and even age restrict some of my best performing content, including the reptile unboxings for being too controversial or violent or something, as well as my Reddit reaction videos. These were two of my biggest series at the time. Not to mention, the PetTube animal hoarding trends I unapologetically capitalized on started to dwindle as my average viewership declined month over month. This was partially driven by the lockdowns being lifted as pandemic pets died off, like literally started dying off from neglect. How do I know? Because they were given to me. That's how we got a lot of our animals, was pandemic pets. And people consumed less social media as they went back to school and work. Expenses rose as the inventory of sick and unwell animals increased, meaning they were sticking around for a really long time, they would take up valuable space and clog up the wait list. So we were basically earning substantially less money per square foot of rental space as we hit max capacity, couldn't turn over animals fast enough, and social media revenue plummeted. Because money dropped so steeply, I reduced my own pay, but my new pay wasn't enough to cover my bills, and before long, I couldn't afford my own payroll. Which is when the herp layoffs went down. I got rid of almost everyone. I went back to directly transferring cash out of the business into my personal checking account. This was legal, it was allowed, but it triggered a series of expensive tax changes. For example, my 15% self-employment income tax came back. I ended up owing substantially more in spite of my income being substantially lower because I could no longer take advantage of the tax code loopholes my accountant Jamar had meticulously built for me. And amidst all the chaos, we ran into another problem. I don't know how this happened, but my third accountant was also behind on his clients. I feel like they were just taking on too much work, because similar to how Liz fell behind years prior, they once again had to file an extension on my behalf. But it was worse, because Jamar forgot the most important document of the year. He never filed the extension request. He told me he was going to do it, and I didn't know he forgot until I got a form in the mail from the IRS with an $880 failure to file penalty. They were like, hey, you didn't file anything. What, did you think we would not notice? I sent it to Jamar, he realized his mistake, he apologized, and said he would sort it out. Now here's the thing. I thought he was just going to pay the fine himself, but instead he submitted a first-time penalty abatement. It's your one free pass with the IRS, basically a get-out-of-jail-free card for when you make an oopsie. It resets every 3 years. He ended up sending in a document saying, "Sorry about that, my client forgot. Look at his track record, it's pretty good, please let him off the hook." Now here's what I didn't realize until this year. He had me sign my name on the document and use up my free pass for his fuck up. I misunderstood what he was doing. I had never heard of this. The IRS accepted the abatement, dropped the penalties, and life went on as normal. But fast forward to this year. I called the IRS trying to use my first time penalty abatement after I discovered the 6-year-old debt that I had, and they were like, "Bro, this is your second time." No. And I was like, what? I went through my documents. It turns out just under 3 years ago is when this first one was used. It was in 2023. I could have used this for the $1,300 fine I got, which would have instantly made me eligible for a payment plan or extension. But because my third accountant used this up over an $800 mistake, I ended up having to pay the $1,300 plus additional fines and penalties and interest charged to me for this year so far. Anyway, going back to a couple years ago to continue this original story, my income around the first penalty abatement thing continued to plummet, and Emerald Scales was just dead in the water at this point. This is when I lost my third and final accountant. I couldn't afford Jamar anymore. I guess I'm kind of glad we were forced to break up. Man, I miss Scott. I wish he didn't retire. But I began doing things myself. Only problem being, I was no longer in contact with the guy who built my entire tax structure. Jamar did not teach a man how to fish. He would just catch the fish and charge me $200 an hour to eat it. I didn't know which EINs were active, what an S-Corp was, what to file when, or how much I owed until it was time to pay. Okay, deep breath. Are we all still following? So for the past 6 years, literally until this week, I thought I had Alex Green, sole proprietorship, active, then closed, then active again, Emerald Scales, active, then dissolved, then absorbed as a DBA, Go Herping, active, then restructured, then closed. This is not correct. It turns out when Go Herping became an S-Corp, the LLC was never actually shut down. I thought it changed, but it turns out a new one was made and the old one was still active. It basically created a second entity, and so there were two at the same time. The EIN, which is again the employer identification number, is equivalent to an SSN, or a social security number, but for a business instead of an individual. I had been submitting some documents with the wrong EIN, not realizing I had been assigned a different one. And when I went back to a sole proprietorship, I thought the S-Corp had shut down as well. But no, the S-Corp has been active this whole time too. So when I thought I had one SSN and two no longer existing EINs, it turns out I have one SSN and 3 EINs, 2 of which are still active. All 3 of these EINs were registered at different addresses because I moved houses every year for like 5 years in a row. As of today, I use an entirely separate business address to prevent this in the future. And to make things worse, something went wrong in the filing process in 2020. I was delinquent on 2 tax accounts. This is what triggered the extension rejection and that fine that I had to pay a few months ago, which I paid through doing Amazon Flex. I don't know if it was me, Jamar, or the IRS, but one way or another, 2 forms were never filed. Notices that they were not filed had been getting sent to an old address, and whoever was renting the home after me was either throwing away the notices, or they were returning them to sender, only for the IRS to ignore the fact they're being returned. That's when the IRS sent me to collections. Then I discovered the collections when trying to file the extension. And hopefully this provides clarity on why I'm so used to filing tax extensions. Some people were like, well, why did you assume you can do it? Because all my accountants filed them every year for me since I was 16 years old. I've had a decade of tax extensions because it was just the standard when I had accountants. And I actually found an email while making this video. It's the last correspondence with my third accountant. I said I ended up using TurboTax since I couldn't afford him anymore, and he responded, "I'm surprised TurboTax does S-Corp returns." I was like, oh, yeah, I guess they do, cool. It turns out this was fucking sarcasm. He was being a little asshole, insinuating I was messing all my shit up, but he didn't say that. He just said, "I'm surprised TurboTax does S-Corp returns." fucking Jamar. Sorry to the real Jamar. I'm sorry that your name is the one that got mixed in with this guy, but I was so annoyed when I realized he was being sarcastic. I'm not great at picking up sarcasm, okay? So figuring out everything that I just told you in what, like 30, I've been recording for 30 minutes. I'm sure I cut it down a little bit, but it took me over 30 hours of phone calls with the IRS this summer. It was so confusing, and the IRS kept transferring me, and every time they transfer me, I would wait on hold for an hour, but their hold system kept auto hanging up after an hour, so I'd have to get back in queue, get transferred again. I spent entire work days just trying to talk to someone at the IRS. I ended up using their transfer line and asking if I could set up an in-person appointment. They were like, yeah, sure, let me transfer you to the in-person appointment line. And the wait was so long to set up an appointment, they kept closing before I'd get an answer. I called the IRS for 2 days straight, just trying to set up an appointment, and I still never got one. So today, I was calling the IRS over confusion with my payment plan and extension. I got through to a real human. I almost nutted in my pants. I was so excited that I actually got to talk to a human. So I got a payment plan in May, over 3 months ago. Literally, here it is. I still have it. We accepted your proposal to pay the amount you owe by November 16th, 2026. The current balance due for the tax period shown is $16,346. It's higher than the $14,000 because they added additional penalties and interest. How exciting. I set this up over the phone earlier this year, and the lady on the phone confirmed it was initiated. Then I received this 7-page document in the mail explaining my terms and how to pay it and everything. The fact I have these papers is largely why I was so nonchalant about the IRS asset seizure threat that I kept getting. I thought it was just an automated message ignoring the fact I had a payment plan initiated, because it's normal to receive false positive warnings like this when you recently changed your tax terms. The system takes a while to catch up. Sometimes it doesn't acknowledge certain exceptions that you've been given. After all, the paper says, we won't send you any further notices about this agreement. I mean, how am I possibly supposed to interpret this aside from exactly what it says? So I wasn't able to do a payment plan initially because it turns out I had owed some money from 6 years ago I didn't know about. So now that was paid, and then I got a payment plan. But then I guess I don't actually have a payment plan, right? Because this all came up on my account, and I was like, oh, I still owe this money, and it was charging me interest.
Yeah, no, there's no payment plan in place right now for some reason.
Oh, okay. That's so weird, because I got a whole letter with a breakdown of here's how much you have to pay by this date, here's the extra interest.
That's weird. Yeah, I mean, if you want one, we could set one up. I don't know why that one didn't go through. Sorry about that.
The payment plan does not exist. This is why I'm so skeptical. The original filing issue in 2020 that led to all these fines and stuff. Because if the IRS can genuinely receive a request, accept the request, confirm the request with the citizen over the phone and in the mail, and then a few months later, we have no documentation of ever doing this. Can I really trust them when they say I'm the one who forgot to file 2 W-2s 6 years ago?
So it doesn't look like there's anything under the actual business, nothing under the EIN. There's just a balance under your personal account for 2025. Okay,
so basically from your side, business side, under that EIN, I shouldn't owe the government any money.
Yeah, that's correct. And then if you could just give me a few minutes, I'm just going to document your account and just put the numbers and everything in there and the amount that's left that you're going to pay and all of that stuff. So if you could just give me 3 to 5 minutes just to put some notes together, I'm just going to place you on a brief hold and I'll be right back.
Okay, that sounds good.
I documented that you called in, that there's no issues under the business right now.
Okay, cool. So are you able to see the LLC is closed, I think, right? It's no longer an active company, the Go Herping one?
I can check that. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Just to make sure I don't have to file anything in the future for it.
I'll check if mine's still be open. Give me 1 second. Let me get one other system open really fast and that'll tell us for sure.
Oh, okay.
Did you send anything in requesting it to be closed?
Yeah, but it was a while ago, but I've also done a lot of things a while ago with the IRS, and it turns out I did it wrong. So.
Wait, give me 1 second. We can confirm, and then if it's not business established, business closed, empty. Okay, yeah. So it doesn't show that it's closed yet, but depending how long ago, it's possible that it's not processed yet. Has it been within the last couple months or longer than that?
No, it was I think at least a year.
If it's been that long, I would recommend to send the request in again, you have to like send in a letter to us requesting the business to be closed and like just explaining why and have the information on there.
I do remember doing that. I can't remember when. I also had two LLCs. And so the other one I'm sure is closed. If the Go Herping one is still open, which I guess it is, do I need to worry about getting anything? Because I've gotten a lot of fees over the years of like, for things that I thought I closed but were still open. So do you think I could someday receive like a, hey, you didn't file any documents for this LLC for 2 years, so now there's like a $4,000 fine again or something?
Got it. Okay, actually, give me 1 second. There's actually, just to be safe, there is one thing I didn't check, though. Let me check that 1 second. And did you have any employees or like anyone on payroll, including yourself, for either of the businesses?
I did. Yeah, that's where I got some fines in the past, was like, I gave them W-2s, and I paid all the taxes that were withheld, but I didn't send the IRS their W-2s, and so...
Yeah, got it. Okay, so that, like, something like that will definitely get you penalties. Or, like, when we find that information out, it usually doesn't happen until, like, a year or two after the fact, that when we, like, have to look through all the records and figure it out, and then we're like, okay, we're going to give you a penalty. And then the penalty and interest is even higher because it's, like, a year or two after. Under this EIN that we looked at, there was no balances or like penalties or anything under there, so I don't know if you've like already paid them or what. I don't know if there's anything under the other EIN though, like if you have any penalties under that. If you request to close the business and you have any issues like missing returns or balances owed, they won't close the business until that's taken care of. 1 second, I think that's all. And then, what is this? Sorry, give me 1 second. I like pull that up and then it's showing me. There was below 21 Social Security wages of. I'm sorry, before I let you go, actually, I just want to like make sure I'm not missing anything. When I pulled up the system that showed, like the one that tells us if we are missing any returns and stuff, it brings up something that says, like it mentions like Social Security wages, but it says that it's basically the system can't figure it out and we have to do it manually to like make sure. So give me just 1 second if that's okay. I apologize.
Yeah, no rush. My goal for this like today is make sure I understand all my tax stuff and make sure it's all in a row.
Perfect.
So yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, give me just 1 second. I just want to make sure that there's like not something hanging out there that we need to talk about.
This happens every call. They're like, okay, you're good. And then like, hold on, don't hang up yet. I think I found that you owe $10,000 for some bullshit.
Sorry, I'm just kind of like clicking through everything just to make sure that there's nothing here, but everything looks good so far.
Okay. And I did also find another EIN in the time that you've been looking for stuff. But the thing is, this EIN also says Go Herping. It doesn't say the name of the other corporation.
Interesting. They might be under the same. This one looks pretty empty. Let me just run that other system really fast and just make sure.
Okay.
Oh, and then we're also going to check if it's closed or not. 1 second. Okay, so this one is bringing up that we're missing some tax returns. So then basically what we do at this point is I tell you like the type of forms and the years or quarters that we're missing. The first forms that I'm going to give you that we're missing they're all 941. It's all 941 forms. So those are all the 941s, and then we're missing 1120S forms. And then we're missing the 940s, so 940. So it could have happened like, yes, we can see when they're open, but it could have happened like if you opened it like as an LLC at first, and then it was like you were, combining it with your social and like your personal taxes, because that's what the other one was. Mm-hmm. The other one was attached to your social and your personal taxes. And then this one is an S corporation. So like it could have been like maybe when you started having employees or something, or I'm not too sure, but sometimes that happens like when you're like, okay, I want to switch from an LLC to an S corporation or to like a different type of entity. Sometimes they'll create a whole new EIN for you during that switch. Yeah, sometimes there's a lot, especially when people are first like opening a business, sometimes they like generate a lot of EINs and then they don't know like which one is which, or yeah, so it happens too. So at least you're like, going through and trying to get them closed for what you don't need and see what you do need, and so that's good.
Yeah. But I feel like I'm gonna have another question, but I think that's everything I have to ask you right now. I don't know if you need anything else from me, but yeah.
No, yeah, nothing else. Is there anything else I can help with for now?
That should be it.
All right, you have a good rest of your day.
3 hours. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So to summarize the last 3 hours of phone calls, I'm kind of just doing this for myself so I can think about it. I called to see how much I owe on my personal taxes to make sure I pay exactly what I owe. But it turns out 2 LLCs and 1 S Corp that I thought were closed are not closed. And I'm missing 19 forms I was supposed to submit. And also, truly the payment plan that I got a whole stack of papers for from the IRS that was like, here's your payment plan, here's the details, here's your due date, here's the interest you'll pay. It turns out that never actually went through. They mailed me the whole payment plan, but they never actually started the payment plan. That's so weird. This is ridiculous. What is this? Some of these have 5 pages stacked up. 5, 10, 15, 18. I have to fill out about 50 pages total and mail them all to the IRS. I had to buy ink for this, just to do this, because my printer didn't have any ink. So $25 on ink. I bought counterfeit ink, and I'm gonna have to buy more stamps or something. I don't even know how to fill out a lot of this shit. Look at this one. I don't know what any of this means. There's so much here. There's 5 pages just for this one form. I don't even know what an S corporation is, but apparently I had one / technically still have one that I just have been not filing stuff for. These are 941s, these are 1120Ss, these are 940s. 2022, 23, 2024, 2025, 2026. And then I also have to write 3 letters to close these accounts so that this stops collecting. I've been basically confused for the entire 10 years I've been paying taxes to the US government. And for the first time ever, I think I understand like 90% of my situation. The reason I'm still not 100% sure is because I called the IRS today specifically to make sure everything's good, make sure I fully understand. And I gave her every piece of information I could find, every employee identification number, and she kept saying, oh yeah, it looks to be all good. And then there would be a pause, and she'd say, actually, hold on a second, let me check something else. And then she would find another missing document. I talked to this woman for 3 hours on the phone, and from start to finish, she kept finding more things. When I hung up and the call ended, all I could think was, if we had done this for another 3 hours, would she find even more missing documents? So I'm still a bit worried there's like undiscovered errors just looming in the IRS ether that are gonna come around to haunt me when I'm like 30 something years old. I wanna figure it all out now, but this is the best I got so far. But ironically, I have the most clarity on my own situation with the least help. Everyone says to use accountants and hire experts on tax, whatever. But the thing is, I was left in the dark when I was outsourcing it all. Now, I'm not exactly ready to jump in and start filing your taxes. I don't think I should necessarily open an accounting firm yet. But this summer, doing it all by myself means there were no accountants being late or forgetting documents or using my first-time penalty abatement. It meant I was left completely by myself to helplessly dig through accounts and documents and emails and filings. Like this whole summer, I was just started from scratch with no understanding and forced to figure it out myself. I've learned more about taxes in the last 90 days than I did in the previous 9 years, not out of curiosity, but out of necessity. Okay, I have 4 EINs. I have 1 social security number. I don't even think you're allowed to have more than 1 SSN. I guess if you bought like a homeless guy's SSN maybe. I have 19 missing documents and some thousands of dollars owed to the government. I printed around 50 pages worth of documents and spent like 8 hours filling them out. Even then, I'm still not super confident. The IRS lady explained how to organize them in the mail, which required sending 6 separate stacks of paper. There were no electronic filing options. You have to do these via actual paper made out of trees. I also sent in requests to close all of my accounts, so if I ever end up making like money again from my own projects, I'll just start a fresh, brand new EIN. Will I get an accountant? I guess, I don't know. Now, on to the taxes I owe. I was given the opportunity, again, to set up a payment plan. Will they actually do it this time? I don't know. I have no idea. But because I'm so far behind on my plans to earn more money, I took the offer. My extension is accepted, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Fool me once, I guess. But assuming it is, let's check out the current herp debt stats. Credit card was $1,571, but I sold my Tesla, which gave me a little bit of cash after paying off the loan. It was $2,600 in my bank after I paid the Tesla loan off. I put this towards the card, and I had $1,000 left over, which is being used for regular bills. If you do want to see the details on the Tesla sale, I have 2 members-only videos deep diving into the bizarre story of selling it, and a complete financial breakdown down to the penny. And then there's my savings account is a 0, and then the IRS debt was around $14,000. Basically, I just got the original plan resubmitted and reaccepted, or accepted for the first time apparently. So I have until November 16th, 2026 to pay $16,346. Sadly, my checking account did have about $10,000 back in April, if you remember. It hovers around $1,000 today. I mean, it's in the positives, that's cool. Shout out Amazon Flex and Uber. Okay, that's my situation. I'll try to stay organized and keep you in the loop, including how many of the 19 forms actually get accepted. Maybe a miracle will happen and I did it all correctly the first time. Shout out to you for surviving this video until the end. Thank you for watching. And if you want to talk to me directly, feel free to join the Discord server, ping me anytime. I'm in there every day, so you can ask me whatever, say whatever you want, insult me or be nice to me. It's really up to you. You can also request an in-video ad the way the dev of the Talley game did, which can be waitlisted using the link in the description. That'll be it. I'm Alex, thanks for watching.